The higher the spot on the page does not necessarily mean the higher cost per click. I want to repeat that because it's extremely important. The higher position on the page does not necessarily mean the higher cost of a click. We're going to talk about understanding the AdWords auction. Now, this is going to be a couple videos. There's a lot to learn, specifically regarding the quality score component. If you know what quality score is, excellent, but I still recommend that you watch these videos to really get a deeper understanding of quality score, all the different elements that quality score contains and that they account for. But most importantly, we want to begin with a basic, broader, more structural overview of how the AdWords auction works. So let's just take a look at a couple of our auction insights, and these are just some bullet points that will apply to all scenarios, and they're very fundamental aspects of understanding the auction. So the AdWords auction focuses on relevancy. Relevancy is an overreaching concept in Google AdWords, and we're going to talk about relevancy more in the quality score videos. In fact, we're going to talk about everything we talk about right now in the quality score videos coming up. But what do I mean by relevancy? So there's three people, let's say, or three entities involved in the AdWords auction. You have Google, you have the advertiser, and you have the searcher. Google is bringing those two people together. They're bridging that gap. So you have a searcher, they come to Google, and Google's job is to send that person to the most relevant and useful page that contains the most relevant and useful information, i.e. the answers to their question or the solutions to their problems or whatever information they're looking for. And Google cares a lot about the user experience with the ads because Google is not a Yellow Pages. Google is not a advertising network per se. Google's a search engine. Google essentially is a referral network. People come to Google looking for information, and we'll cover this, we're going to repeat this again. People come to Google looking for information, and Google's job is to send that person to the most relevant page. So Google cares a lot about the relevancy in your ads. There's a few different subcategories of relevancy. First of all, Google cares that the text of your ad, what your ad says, is very relevant to what the user is looking for. Search query to ad text relevance is one of the most important, most fundamental aspects of relevancy. Google wants to see that the text of your ads is matching up to what the person searched Google for, because that will give Google's algorithms a sense, or an accurate sense, that your ad is going to help the user. What Google does not want is a company like Geico or a big company that has a huge advertising budget to start taking over all the different auctions, because Geico takes out billboards. Geico's job is to just get into the consciousness of the consumer, just to brand. So I might search for ASICS running shoes or acoustic guitars for sale online, and Geico will be, okay, let's just show an ad, because listen, people using running shoes and people searching for guitars are probably also looking for car insurance at some point, so let's show an ad. So Google would find that very not relevant, and Google would penalize an advertiser trying to show an ad for insurance on a search query for acoustic guitars. So that's something which is the text of the ad and the query the person typed in is a big factor in relevancy. Google also cares a lot about your landing page. Google wants to know, how well does your landing page match up to the questions that the searcher was looking for? How relevant is the content on your landing page? How navigable is your site? How clear is your site? How well is your site laid out? How fast does your page load? Those are all things that Google calls the user experience. Google wants to send people, once they click off Google, Google wants to send people to relevant websites, relevant landing pages. And once again, not to sound repetitive, but we're going to repeat this in the next videos on quality score. But Google wants to make sure that the overall user experience is very positive. So Google cares a lot about relevancy, and we'll see how that plays into the actual auction. Google uses a second price auction model. That means that you only really need to pay the amount that the advertiser below you is bidding, plus a penny. So we'll talk about that more in a minute, but just keep that in mind. It's a second price auction model. Generally, in a typical auction, I raise my hand and I say, okay, $50, sold for $50. That's not how it works in AdWords. With AdWords, I might raise my hand and say $50, a $50 max CPC bid, but I don't actually have to pay the $50 in most cases. I only need to pay as much as I need to beat the advertiser below me, and I'm willing to pay at most $50. That's what my bid is, that's what my bid claims. My bid says I'm willing to pay at most $50, and that's a bullet point here on the bottom. Another important thing is that you only pay for clicks. Now, most of you know this already. We've covered this before. Impressions don't cost money. Your ad could be shown, it could be displayed, it could be on the search results page a million times, and you won't have to be charged. You won't get charged a penny. You only pay when your ad receives a click, and that's a very powerful factor in AdWords and PPC advertising in general, and a lot of aspects in internet marketing. You only pay when somebody clicks and comes to your website. That's like saying if you had a retail store, you would stand outside giving people 10 cents or 25 cents just to come inside. So you only pay when somebody comes to your store or comes to your website. Every single search triggers another auction. This might seem simple, but I want you to really focus on that. Every single search triggers another live auction. If there's 3 billion Google searches a day, there's 3 billion auctions, providing that each of those searches is eligible for ads. A live auction means that there are a lot of live variables. So you might be seeing data in your account. Your account might show you a keyword level quality score of a 7 out of 10. But that's not necessarily the live keyword level quality score. Every single time a query is entered into Google and somebody hits enter, there's another live auction, so your quality score might change. The competitive landscape might change. There might be certain advertisers during certain times of the day that aren't advertising. There might be certain advertisers that are going to advertise more aggressively during certain hours of the day. And that will affect how you that would affect your ad rank. That will affect how much you're going to have to pay for a click. That's going to affect your average position in the auction. So you have to keep that in mind. This is a live market. It's not two people or a team of people deciding who gets what page, who gets what slot on the page, how much people pay per click. This is a live auction every time somebody runs a search. It does happen in a fraction of a second, but keep in mind, it's still a live auction, and there are a lot of live variables that have to be taken into account, and that will affect the results of each individual auction. The last bullet point over here is that the max CPC bid equals the most you're willing to pay for a click. Not how much you're going to pay for a click, it equals the most you're willing to pay for a click. That's a very important factor. That's something which is completely fundamental. It's crucial to understanding how this works. So when we've been looking at the videos, in the previous videos, and we've been putting in that default max CPC bid is just saying, this is the most I'm willing to pay for a click for this keyword. I'm not willing to pay any more. I'd love to pay less, but I'm not paying any more than my max CPC bid. That's how bidding works in AdWords, but the max CPC bid is not necessarily what you're going to pay. It's just the most you're willing to pay. So those are some of the most fundamental auction insights. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how the auction actually works. Okay, so here we have 6 advertisers entering in an auction. Let's give it a keyword. So our keyword for this auction is going to be, let's say, continuing with our example, left-handed acoustic guitars. Okay, so let's say that is our keyword that this auction is focusing on. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter what the keyword is. This is just an example. So we have 6 advertisers advertising on the search, left-handed acoustic guitar. We have Jack, who is willing to pay $6 for a click. Barbara, who's willing to pay $5.50 for a click. Paul, whose max CPC bid is $4 for a click. Max is willing to pay $3 for a click. Jill is willing to pay at most $2.90 a click, and Tony is willing to pay $1 for a click. Now you might ask, if everybody's bidding on a left-handed acoustic guitar keyword, why are these advertisers bidding with such a discrepancy? Why is there such a $5 discrepancy in how much these people are willing to pay for a click? And the answer to that is these advertisers might be selling different types of left-handed acoustic guitars. So Tony, who's only willing to pay $1 for a click, he might even be selling left-handed acoustic guitar lessons, right? And he knows that his conversion rates for a lesson are much lower. He doesn't charge that much money for a lesson, and he's figured out, based on discovering a profitable bidding strategy, that the most that he could profitably pay for a click is $1. Now you might ask, what is a profitable bidding strategy? And hold off on that for now. We're going to cover developing profitable bidding strategies, how to take a look at your data and decide what I should bid. But we're not there yet. Right now we're just still understanding the auction. And Max and Paul, $3 and $4, they might be selling mid-range acoustic guitars in the $300 to $600 range, and Jack might be representing a custom sort of luthier shop that creates these beautiful hand-carved limited edition left-handed acoustic guitars. And for him, he is selling guitars in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, and his numbers and his overhead has resulted in a profitable max CPC bid, max cost per click bid of $6. And there might be other reasons as well. Jack might be willing to take a loss because he wants to get into the game and he has some investors behind him. There's many different factors, but inevitably we're going to see disparities like this and even greater in the auction. Sometimes competitors are willing to pay so much money for a click just to take the #1 spot. Sometimes competitors find that this keyword for them just doesn't simply work. Maybe the page on their website, or maybe this is a peripheral product. Maybe this keyword might mean different things for different advertisers. So for Tony, this might be a very peripheral awareness level stage keyword. For Jack, this might be exactly what he actually sells, and it might be a shop or buy or purchase level funnel in the buyer funnel. So this keyword, keep in mind, could very possibly represent different stages of the buying funnel for each given advertiser. So that's another very important thing to keep in mind. Not every keyword has the same value to every business. So we're going to see a discrepancy. But anyway, so this is what they're all willing to pay for a click. Now let's take a look at what their relevancy scores might be. So there's a lot of different factors. Like I said, there's keyword level quality, there's relevancy between the keyword and the ad text, there's the relevancy between your landing page, there's the quality of your landing page. One of the biggest factors in your relevancy score is your click-through rate for your keywords. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about click-through rate. We're going to talk about how that plays out in the future chapters. But let's just give everybody a relevancy score. So let's say Jack has low relevancy, okay? So Jack's relevancy is low, okay? Because, you know, his ads are pretty bad. They don't match up well with the search queries. His landing page loads slowly, so he's a low relevancy score. Now, Google themselves, they don't rate it at low, medium, and high. They actually give numbers to determine your quality score, and we're going to talk about that, how that gets determined in a minute, in the next video. Barbara might have a medium relevancy score, okay? Paul could have a high relevancy score. Let's say Max is low. Let's say Jill is medium. And let's say Tony has a high relevancy score. Okay, so everybody gets a relevancy score. Now, the first thing that is calculated before we start calculating cost is the number called ad rank. Ad rank is calculated by multiplying your max CPC bid by your quality score. And we're going to talk all about ad rank coming up. We're going to get very detailed. This is just to give you a very broad, basic overview of ad rank. Everybody gets an ad rank. Now let's just say, for example, Jack's ad rank with his high bid but low quality score comes out to a 10. Okay? Barbara gets a 12 ad rank because she has a medium relevancy score but a higher CPC bid. Paul comes out with a 16 ad rank because he has while he has a lower bid, he has a very high relevancy score. Max gets a 6 quality score, a 6 ad rank because he has a lower bid and a low relevancy score. Jill with a low bid and a medium quality score gets a 7. And Tony gets a 13. Okay, now let's see what happens here. But you need to understand what ad rank is. Ad rank is just simply an arbitrary number that determines the spot on the page. Ad rank determines what spot on the search engine results page you get. So in this case, it's very simple. Paul lands spot number 1. Okay? Tony gets spot number 2. Barbara gets spot number 3. Jack gets spot number 4. Jill gets spot number 5, and Max, with Max's low relevancy and lowish bid, gets nixed from the auction altogether, doesn't get a spot, because the last advertiser generally doesn't get a spot. And we'll talk about why that is in a second, of course. So that's something which is important to understand, that when there's more advertisers than the spots on the advertising page, which is usually 8 to 10, and usually there are more advertisers for most commercial intent keywords, the person with the lowest ad rank doesn't get on the page. But I want you to focus on something very important and very interesting here. If you notice, look at who got the #1 spot. Paul, who wasn't bidding the highest, Paul was only bidding $4. There were 2 other advertisers willing to pay more for a click, but Paul, with his high relevancy score, wins spot #1. Okay? Tony, which is also interesting, with his cheapest bid, but since he has such a high relevancy score, he wins spot #2. And Tony, in spot #2, will not pay more than $1. So his cost per click, his actual cost per click might end up coming out to 87 cents, while Barbara, who's in position 3, she only has to pay as much as she needs to beat person in position 4, which is right below her, which is Jack, and Barbara might end up paying $5.30. So just think about how fascinating that is. The higher the spot on the page does not necessarily mean the higher cost per click. I want to repeat that because it's extremely important. The higher position on the page does not necessarily mean the higher cost of a click. In our example here, this fictitious example, which could very, very well happen and happens very often, Tony in spot #2 could be paying 80 cents, while Barbara in spot #3 might be paying $5.20. So it's very possible that the person in spot #2, because such a high relevancy score, is paying drastically less than person in spot number 1 or 3. So, for example, here we have, let's see, we have Jill, right? So Jill is getting spot #5. So she's the last on the page because she has a combination of just a medium relevancy score and a pretty low cost per click. So she gets the last position on the page. But just to continue to stress, we're going to get further into all this. This is very complicated stuff, and I'm sure that there's a lot here that's unclear. For example, how does my actual cost per click actually get calculated? We didn't talk about that, and you're right. How does my quality score actually get calculated? We didn't talk about that. What I want you to take away from all this is very broad understanding of the AdWords auction, like the main auction insights. There's a huge focus on relevancy. You don't use the second price auction model, which means that you don't pay what your max CPC bid is. You don't automatically pay what your bid is. You pay just what you need to pay to maintain your position over the person beneath you. You pay just what you need to pay to maintain your position over the person beneath you. You only pay for clicks. Every search triggers another auction, and your max CPC is just the most you're willing to pay. And I want you to also just start understanding the auction in this dynamic perspective, where the person, that ad rank, your ad rank number is a number which determines your spot on the page. The higher the ad rank, the higher spot you are, but the higher the ad rank, the higher spot does not necessarily mean the higher cost. You could, position 2 might be paying much less than position 3. Position 3 could possibly pay less than position 4, and position 1 could possibly be paying less than position 3 or 4 also. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic auction that takes relevancy, what we call quality score. In the next videos, we'll substitute relevancy for quality score, that takes quality score into account. And just to give you a little bit of a precursor, and we did mention this already, but your ad rank is calculated nowadays by your max CPC bid multiplied by your quality score. So let's dive into quality score, because that's going to help you understand how the auction really works. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to give you more additional examples like this that show you exactly, precisely how your actual cost per click is calculated. We're going to go through it. It's going to be very instructional. It's going to be a long video. We're going to really dive into these topics. You're going to get a much, much better understanding of the AdWords auction, how the different numbers are calculated, and how it works. And what's more, I'm actually going to give you a little bit of a brief history of quality score and a brief history of the AdWords auction, how it came to be and how it operated before the quality score era and how it changed post quality score. So that's going to be a very interesting next couple videos. Thanks very much for watching, but stay tuned and make sure to jump into the next video right away. Thanks. We'll see you on the other side, guys.